Hello and welcome. My name is Cliona Foley and this is Off the Bench, a podcast about women in sport which we hope will entertain and educate sports fans of all ages and genders. Regular listeners will know that we're usually just either a podcast or sometimes we have visuals, but you can get all of our previous podcasts on iTunes or on the Off the Ball website. Look in under their podcast series links and you'll find us down there under Off the Bench. Today we are back in studio and we have two guests, and we have a guest who is very privileged because he's the first male guest we've ever had on Off the Bench. Wow. So Stephen Doyle, sports broadcaster with Off the Ball, and also one of the men with the best haircut in Irish sports journalism. Stephen Doyle, welcome to Off the Bench.
Thanks for being Cliona. I feel very honoured to be the first male here.
Well, and there's been a queue actually of people trying to get in here, so you're the first one to make it, which is fantastic. So great to have you. And also obviously our own Sue Murphy again of Off the Ball, and a regular with us as well. So blessed are you amongst women. Only two women. Okay, so we'll kick right into it this week, listeners, because we're a little bit late to the party probably on one or two things, because I've been away on holidays, and while I was away there was a heat wave in Ireland, so I paid money to go try and get a tan and get bitten by midges, and I come back and everybody here is browner than I am, so that's great. But it's a very timely time for us to have Stephen in as a guest, because he covers women's soccer and Gaelic amongst lots of other things he covers as well, and we're just hitting an interesting weekend particularly for Irish women's soccer, which we'll talk about in a minute. So we're going to be covering women's soccer, Gaelic football. We're going to be talking about whether there's a place for politics in sport, and particularly in women's sport, if you like. And obviously, Sue was freaking out today because the Forbes rich list of athletes is out. There's no women on it, so we're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be talking about those lovely goodie bags at the Women's Mini Marathon and lots more, including our regular feature, which is our nominations for Hero of the Month. So stick with us and we hope you enjoy it. We're going to go straight into it. I've been away, I've been out of the country for 10 days. And I came back yesterday and I was listening particularly to RTE radio, and I didn't hear one mention of the fact that Ireland are playing Norway in a Women's World Cup qualifier in 2 days' time on Friday the 8th June. In a really crucial game, Stephen. So I was really shocked at the lack of coverage, but why is this such an important game? Tell our listeners why this is such an important game for us.
Well, I suppose before this group even started, when we looked at the draw that we got, we were probably fearing the worst. I know we saw some good indication from the way the team was playing since Colin Bell took over as head coach at the start of last year, that the team is going in the right direction, but then we get drawn with top seeds Norway and against the Netherlands, who just won the European Championship.
Exactly, yeah.
So
and Norway had a bad European Championship, so they're looking to bounce back from it this year.
Well, I think looking at the group before it started, you would have been thinking, okay, this one might be a bit of a stretch for us to qualify, especially the way the qualification works out. It's the top teams from each group, and then the best 4 teams from the 7 groups then go into a playoff, ultimately with the best 2 playing each other for a finals place. So I think if we had a thought, well, you know, maybe get second place, maybe just miss the playoffs, that would be a good performance from this squad, which Colin Bell has just taken over. So I think to be coming to this really important juncture where you've got back-to-back games against the top seeds in the group, Norway, with the chance to qualify.
Playing them on Friday, and then we're playing them in Norway next Tuesday. And we haven't played them yet, so this is a really big test. We're lying second in the group, they're third, but they've got a game in hand. And
so I think, you know, when the group started off, if we had been told you're going to get to these back-to-back games against the top seeds and you still have a chance to qualify, you'd have bitten somebody's hand off.
Yeah, we should. And that's why I think there should be so much more coverage of it, and I'm really surprised, because like if it was our men's team that were playing and had a chance of World Cup qualifying and we're in this position with 3 games to go, you know, every single hour we'd be getting an update on injuries or whatever. We're just not hearing enough about it. I'm really surprised at that. But and we don't...
To be honest, Cliona, as well, like I'd be loath to criticise, because I think, you know, and I'm speaking as a broadcaster myself, you know, I read news bulletins, I think we all have to take a share of the blame when it comes to coverage of women's sport, and I feel like I can't criticise anybody really. We all need to do better. You know, I would like to think that I've done my best over the last number of years. I would read news bulletins on the radio station 98 FM. I really try as best I can to push, and especially our angle will be the Dublin women's football team, the Camogie team, and the soccer team and the rugby team on the international stage. So when there are big games, you try each week to get them to, like we would with the men's teams, get them to the top of the bulletin to make sure that they are the big story of the day.
And like, I know the Men's World Cup doesn't start until next week. There's loads of on, but I was listening to bulletins yesterday where I was hearing about, you know, golfers, male golfers, you know, missing the cut by, you know, and how many shots, and I thought there isn't one mention of the women's football team. But look, and to be honest about it, Off the Bench doesn't design itself as a preview. We don't design ourselves to preview games or to give updates on, you know, the tables and things like that. But we do look at general issues around women's sport, what affects them. So that's why we nearly are giving this a little bit of a preview, because the match is so in such close proximity, and I don't think it's got enough coverage, if you like. So that's why we are having a look at it. And Norway, obviously, first of all, Colin Bell has managed a club in Norway, so he knows some of the top Norwegian players, and we've seen already that his experience abroad, coaching abroad, has been very strong tactically. He knows international women's game. He knows it fairly well. But they're missing. Well, they're missing one particular player, and you've been reading up on her, and it's interesting why she isn't there. So tell us a little bit about her.
They're missing Ada Hegerberg, who she last summer, as most people have reported on, she decided to take a break from international football. Now, the reason Hegerberg's so important is because she arguably could be the best player on the planet right now in women's football. She scored a record 15 goals in the Champions League this season for Lyon, who went on to win their third consecutive Champions League title. She has an incredible goal scoring record. I think she said, I read a quote from herself that she'd spoken to Cristiano Ronaldo, and kind of, you know, just teasing him, kind of said, look, I've actually got a better goal scoring record than you. So that kind of
I'm liking you already at it.
Gives you a picture, it gives you a picture of what kind of she's scoring. It looks like, I've kind of looking at a record, you could say maybe an average of, you know, 2 goals in every game.
Yeah, she was BBC Women's Football Team last year. She was UEFA Women's Football the year before as well. Like, she is a world-class player, but she's not playing. Why is she taking herself out?
I'm looking and thinking, why isn't she in this Norway squad? So it looks like after their disastrous European Championship campaign last summer, which they lost all 3 matches, didn't score any goals. Something obviously went wrong there, but she decided to pull out. Now, she gave a number. She apparently released a press release with a number of points on it, which was actually very hard to attain when you're trying to. See, it's the problem with women's football. You know, because of the lack of coverage, and then you're trying to find Norwegian outlets that are reporting on this. Then you're trying to translate it.
So
it's so hard. But I couldn't actually nail down the actual points that she put out in this press release. But there was a number of things that she mentioned, such as preparation for games. She wasn't happy with the post-match analysis of games with the management team. She also seems to have a major issue with the Norwegian Football Federation, who she was complaining maybe that they weren't investing enough money into the Women's League in Norway, which has definitely taken a bit of a tumble over the last decade or so. Now, interestingly enough, in December, there was a big announcement in Norwegian football where the international players, the women's players, were put on the same salary scale as the men.
That's
Now, it's only women playing international football. And what happened was the male players get handed over their commercial money to bring the women to
That's right, we talked about it on Off the Bench. Exactly. They made the gesture. Their male colleagues made that gesture.
But anyway, this hasn't changed Hegerberg's mind. There seems to be an issue there, a personal issue. Like, there's some reporters in Norway seem to be writing that she seems to have a bit of an issue with the Norwegian manager. Now, her sister also has been ignored. She's 24. She's also playing for Lyon. She has been left out of the squad. So there does seem to be a bit of a personal issue. Now,
is this good news for us, Stephen?
I think it is. The only problem is they are scoring goals. They scored 6 against Slovakia. They scored 4 against Northern Ireland. I watched the highlights of the Slovakia game. I have to say the defending was quite naive from Slovakia. They're up against a 3-pronged defence. They were playing 4 defenders and it wasn't very good. Caroline Hansen, who interestingly, Caroline Graham Hansen, to give her full name, she plays for Wolfsburg, who faced Lyon in the Champions League final. And there seems to be a little bit of tension between her and Hegerberg as well. Her quotes weren't very friendly when she was asked about Hegerberg not being in the squad. She is a right winger. She seems to be playing on the right side of a 3-prong attack now, though. She got 6 goals in 4 games in this campaign. They've got another player who scored 4 goals and 3 assists, Guro Reiten. So they're not lacking goals. I said they didn't score any in the last European Championship, but they are scoring them now.
They're scoring them at the moment, and that's the worry for us.
Exactly, And
what about our own team?
I have to say, watching the Slovakian defence, I was kind of thinking, I'm looking at the Irish team like Louise Quinn, Niamh Fahey, Megan Connolly, as we play like 3 at the back with 2 fullbacks, I can't see our team being as naive.
And also they were very solid in the second half against Holland the last day.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? They gave away 2 stupid goals early on. One of them was arguably wasn't a penalty at all.
Yeah.
And then actually they were rock solid at the back.
Definitely.
And again, somebody like
clean sheet in the second half.
kept clean sheet, and they have that solid experience. And people like Louise Quinn playing with Arsenal this year has really, really been standing out. So it's not bad. We've got players missing ourselves, and we have some injury worries. Tell us a little bit about those.
I have to say, looking at the injury concerns, doubtful. We've got Marie Hourihan, who's the Manchester City goalkeeper, and Harriet Scott. Now, we know Harriet Scott was missing the last couple of games because she had a collarbone injury.
Yeah, and she was FAI Women's Player of the Year, wasn't she?
Player of the Year, Now, she played brilliant against Holland in the away game, the 0-0 match. She's returned from the collarbone injury, but she's got a bit of a knee problem. Apparently she tore a ligament, a grade 1 tear, after she returned, but they haven't ruled her out yet. Colin Bell hasn't ruled her out yet.
Fahy was a bit of a worry, which to me again is a linchpin of that game.
Yeah, so I think Niamh Fahy and Amber Barrett seem to be okay. They both had knee problems, but it seems like they're going to be all right for this game. I think my main concern would be Marie Hourihan, the goalkeeper. Because she was excellent in that clean sheet against the Netherlands away. Absolutely brilliant.
And she's taken over the job from Emma Byrne, who was there for years and has had a few blips and yet played herself back into games, and I think that's a really good sign of a developing goalkeeper. If you like. She's still developing, isn't she?
And look, we have a couple of keepers there as backup. We've got Amanda Budden from Cork City, Amanda McQuillan from Shelbourne Ladies. With no disrespect to those 2 goalkeepers, I just think we need Marie Hourihan's experience in this game, and especially against such a good high-scoring team.
So that's one for people to watch out for. Is Tyler Tolan back in as well?
She's back in, she's back in the squad.
Really young teenager who was missed. Yeah. She was only came off the bench, I think, the last day, if you like. And I noticed there's Zara Foley, a 16-year-old from Ballincollig, from Lakewood, has been called into the squad, and that just shows the sort of talent that we have coming through.
Because Bell, of course, he's in charge of the under-17s as well.
Yeah.
Anytime he sees a bit of talent, he's no qualms of putting them through. Yeah.
And do they have to be 16 to play senior? Is there a law? I think it looked to me as if they have to be 16.
I think they have to be
16. There was an interesting article, Sue, I was looking at it. Emma Malone in the Irish Times had an interesting article as well about 2 weeks ago about the development of the underage talent. And I thought that was really interesting because there's a competition called the Gaynor Cup, which is like the interleague underage, girls' biggest competition in Ireland, and they've actually cut the number of teams that are qualifying from it. And he was interviewing Dave Connell in the FAI about that, and I thought it was interesting because he was saying they're not good enough to be there.
That's great, so honest.
Yeah, so
I don't think there's enough of that around the.
Well, women's sport, in other words, teams that aren't going to make it now are complaining, saying, "Oh, we're not getting to the Gaynor Cup now," and they're saying, "You're not good enough to be there, so hold back. Let's have real quality at this, and let's develop real quality." Isn't that the point?
Yeah, and I think that sometimes we don't judge the game harshly enough.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we're very like, oh, there's the girls, let's go and support them. And we can't keep doing that.
Yeah.
I think if we are to take it seriously and we are to put forward our best players, we need to look at who's under 17. We need to go, you're actually... And he was talking about consistency in training as well.
Yeah, he was really
they were
good.
Training like 5 times a week.
Yes, they weren't getting enough training at underage and need to be getting 4 times a week.
And I mean, this is something that's completely my bugbear as well. I went training the other night and the lads came down and we were kicked off the pitch and put onto another pitch. I mean, I know sometimes it works better, sometimes you're on another, but why can't they go to another pitch? I think there's still a bit of a, we need to concentrate on what that training routine is, how we're bringing girls through.
Yeah, developing that professionalism at that level.
And giving that support to them as well, saying, you know what, you're actually really good and let's develop you into a really good player. I
thought that was really good. I think it's a really healthy thing for them to say, no, we want to keep the standard at this Gaynor Cup so good, and if you're not good enough, no, you don't qualify for it. We'll cut the numbers of teams out of this year, but let's keep the quality.
It needs to raise the bar.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And judge them as harshly and judge them as critically as you would judge men, in a good way as well.
That kind of reminded me of, I remember interviewing Emma Byrne after the last World Cup qualifying campaign when we lost to Russia. And we lost 3-1, and there was a pretty bad Irish performance. But Roy Keane was in attendance and he went into the dressing room after the game. So we spoke to him after the match and asked her about it, and he basically laid it out bare to them. You were brutal.
Weren't good there,
basically coughed
not
up
good
really
enough.
silly goals. And Emma even said after the game, she said, I think we kind of appreciate that fact that he didn't dress it up for us. He was really honest and said how bad we were. And
we think that increasingly, we think with women's sport now and team sport especially as well, they want to be criticised the same way as you criticise men, and they don't take umbrance if you criticise them properly and critically and say, look, it's not good enough and you're not fit enough and you're not in the right positions or whatever it is. That's the way to go. The one thing I did think was nice, I don't know whether you saw it, and we'll put it up on our Twitter account, which is at Off the Bench OTB, so it's at Off the Bench OTB, was the Aviva, who are the new sponsors, and they've committed to the women's team, and they're doing a good job actually in some of the stuff they're doing. They have a lovely video called, was it Earning the Spotlight, I think so, and it's really nice. Have you seen it?
I watched it this morning.
It's lovely, isn't it?
I actually got a little bit emotional watching it. Yeah.
In your eye there. Something in your eye there too. Do you know what I like about it? People will put it up for you to see if you haven't seen it already, but there's a couple of things, the lovely things about it. First of all, you know, it centres around an inner city kid, and it reminded me of Olivia O'Toole, you know, the brilliant Irish player and records goal scorer, because she came from inner city Dublin. That's where she learned, I think, Sean McDermott Street or whatever. You know, inner city kids playing on the street. And it also reminded me, there's a line in it about from Countess Markovic saying, dress suitably, what is it, in strong boots. And it's just lovely. And there's a reference, there's a reference to Anne O'Brien, the great Irish woman who played in France and Italy, whose story is incredible. So they're brilliant historical references, and I just thought that was a really nice touch, and it's well worth going seeing. As I said, we'll put it up on our Twitter account as well, and it's called Earning the Spotlight. It's a beautiful piece.
I think Aviva, actually, because I actually met somebody from Aviva there a few weeks ago, and we were chatting about women's sport. They are so behind, like they're so behind the players, so behind the game, and it's really nice to see, like they're really excited about it.
And they're sponsoring the girls, the underage stuff, and the camps with the kids and everything. But you can see the passion in it, and it's beautifully done. The timing of the game has attracted a bit of controversy yet again. I don't understand. I don't know whether anybody has explained it yet, but it's a 5:30 game on a Friday, and I've heard people saying, how are you meant to get across Dublin or into Dublin at 5:30 on a Friday?
Crazy. I remember covering Shamrock Rovers did playing in the Europa League, and they had a couple of kickoffs at 6 o'clock when they got to the group stage under Michael O'Neill, and it's an absolute nightmare trying to get out that way at that time. Now, I suppose this FIFA set the fixtures, they set the times.
Do they? Is that what it is?
So I think it's something around the TV schedule as well, that like in order for it to be seen.
It is a shocking time for people to have to get out. However, my point is, if the Irish men were playing in a World Cup qualifier at half five on a Friday evening, people would take a half day. People would be slipping out of work early and going to see them. So why don't you take a little bit of time off work and slip out early?
And the other thing I'd say as well, because I was just looking from the day of the last, it was the Dutch game was on the Friday. You had Shamrock Rovers were playing away from home that night. Bows and Pats were both playing at home. The night of this game coming up, or sorry, it was Slovakia, I think it was. No, the Slovakia 2-1 game that was. This Friday night, Bows are at home, Pats away. Shamrock Rovers aren't playing on Friday night. They're the local club. I'd like to think that Shamrock Rovers fans
would get behind it. And in fact, at the last few matches, because there was a good nice double-header there in the last qualifiers, I noticed that there were quite a lot of Shamrock Rovers fans that popped up as well. So look, you know, we're always talking about on this podcast, which is like women's sport can't thrive. It can't get sponsors. It can't get media coverage if there isn't an audience for it. We have to create an audience and make an audience and get an audience that appreciates it. So if you know anybody, you know, go to it, get them, bring your kids, and they do face painting and everything for the kids. It's fantastic. It's a great evening's entertainment, so it really is well worth going to, and it's 5:30 on Friday night, and that's the 8th of June.
And there's the Lewis, of course. The Lewis is great.
The Lewis is very handy to get there. So in the city, if you're in the city for that.
The tickets are only £5.
And they're only £5.
Yeah, I got tickets during the week. I was like, I feel like I should just buy lots.
It's for nothing. And I mean, I bought 2 tickets for the last match, and I couldn't get somebody to come with me in the end, and I gave it to somebody outside the gate. But they are so cheap. It's the same always with women's sport, you know. And we could talk about that another day, about why don't we charge more actually, and maybe then we get more money. That's another question. Again, we stress we're not here to provide match coverage or analysis or things, but this is unusual because I thought there was just not so much. And so in GA at the moment we're in the throes of the championship. So if you want to find out about the Ladies Gaelic Football Championship and the Camogie, you can go onto their websites. And also the 42.ie are doing a very nice podcast. Emma Duffy, one of our contributors here, does a very good Ladies GA podcast with the LGFA and the 42. Those things are there. But I was struck by a few things that happened at the weekend, and also something that's come up. The Kerry women are back in a Munster final. And if you knew the story of the Kerry women's football team this year, they got relegated out of Division 1, which is unheard of. They're the reigning Munster champions. their county board practically quit this year. They, at one point, they got a letter from Croke Park saying they had to get, somebody better take up the jobs. Their manager stepped down after the league relegation, and yet they have managed to, players have got it, fair dues to them to be still of that quality, to hold it together. And they've got a new manager, obviously, and he's come in. So, people thought, they might be under threat, but they haven't. They've come back and they've qualified for Munster final. But the interesting thing about that Munster final is that it is Cork and Kerry, the old hegemony. You can't break it. It's technically on the same day as the men's Munster final against Cork and Kerry. So everyone's going, great, here's another opportunity for a double header. But there isn't going to be a double header because, allegedly, we know the minor game is set as the opener. But there was a very interesting piece, James Masters, who's a former Cork player who's on the women's football team, who's on their women's management. He's making an interesting point is, why wasn't it the men's and the senior men's and senior women's? Like, we know the minors, traditionally is there, but if we want to push forward, these women have still not paid in Páirc Uí Chaoimh.
That's what's really upsetting about that entire thing.
Yeah.
Like some of the legends that are on that Cork team.
11 times All-Ireland champions and they never played in Páirc Uí Chaoimh.
Yeah.
And here's an opportunity on June the 23rd for them to play in Páirc Uí Chaoimh with the men's as a double header. Wouldn't that be brilliant?
Absolutely. Well, we've seen it.
So long deserved.
Yeah, I've covered obviously between Dublin in the league championship, or the league Allianz League and the Lidl National Football League, and we obviously had the double headers
in Croker.
Last year was the first one, Dublin and Mayo, and then this year obviously one of them fell of the weather unfortunately, but the night when we had was Dublin versus Mayo in the women's, the men's Dublin versus Donegal, and it was a brilliant night, and like to see those Dublin women's players out there on Croke Park, out on that beautiful pitch out there, was just fantastic.
Getting more than once a year a chance to play on
it. And obviously
and
they had the experience from the All-Ireland last year, but it should, I just can't understand. I just, when you've got that opportunity, and I understand the minors, that's always been the tradition. But
but it's getting interesting now. Traditions are there to be broken, and we've already broken a tradition. Minors are now under 17. They're very young. Do they need to be put out on a pedestal all the time? Does their All-Ireland final need to be played in front of the All-Ireland senior final? It's a purely historical, traditional thing. Why can't we actually change other traditions now and start to do some other interesting things to promote the women's game? Well, you could move the minors to Páirc Uí Chaoimh. That's the argument. What it looks like now is going to happen is that the women's Munster final is probably going to be in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, which, now don't get me wrong, is probably a pitch they haven't played in too often either, and it's it's the old Flower Lodge in Cork. It's a gorgeous ground, isn't it? I do know it's a great ground, and it's very near Páirc Uí Chaoimh. And James Masters had a really interesting idea, Sue. Did you just notice that?
Yeah, so it was basically that the ticket would actually get you into the women's game and into the men's game, that there'd be a double, or it'd be half price.
Half price. He said if you went to the women's game and it's only like a 10-minute or 15-minute walk down the road to Páirc Uí Chaoimh. That would encourage women to go to watch the women and buy a ticket that would, either give you half price on the men's and go down and go into the men.
Still, are people going to do that? Because, and it's something we've talked about and the girls talked about here in the podcast as well.
Players,
the support is so important. Like the difference, they say, when they go onto a pitch, when there's a crowd there watching them, cheering them on, compared to walking out to empty seats, is and that, I think that's a big problem, because if there is a minor thing taking place down the road and there's a match later on, are people going to go to the women's game?
And the minor game has been set for 5 and the men's senior game is set for 7. So he was saying, well, what if you paid if you went into the women's game up in Páirc Uí Chaoimh and got a ticket that covered that and the men's senior game and went to both of them, and you only walked down the road, you could do it. And what I really like about it is it's his creative thinking. He's not accepting the old norms. He's saying, come on, we can do better for women here. Let's do something here that makes it better for women, gives them better crowds, gives them more appreciation, and recognise their bloody talent.
And what Sue says there is true, because I'm even thinking back to the All-Ireland women's final last year, when they broke the record for the attendance, and the atmosphere there was just incredible, and the scenes afterwards, watching all the Dublin team going and meeting the fans, their family and all that kind of thing, it was amazing. And I know you guys mentioned in the last podcast about the people you noticed attending the last Ireland women's game, was that it wasn't just all girls. There was boys.
That's
girls,
what you want to see, a mixed crowd,
women,
men, women.
It was the same at Croke Park last year for that final.
It was a great crowd.
Great mix, it was really good.
Great crowd. And increasingly, and we say it all the time, like the last soccer internationals, Irish women's soccer internationals, have been loads of men there, and loads of men bringing small girls from clubs, from Castlebar to Sligo to Kerry, from Leitrim. You could see them coming from all over the country. Like, so many men are doing brilliant things in women's sport. sport, but we just need a little more creativity. Again, we would need that cooperation that they're talking about between the GA and the women's football and the Camogie, so that you could do a joint ticket. But at the moment, we don't have.
There are a lot of scheduling problems in general. I mean, I've talked to players before that say we find out on a Wednesday or a Thursday where we're playing,
and that's because they can't get pitches. You see, so they don't get pitches.
It's not fair. Like, surely at this stage we can find a way to make everything work.
Yeah. Well, look, I thought it was an interesting one. It's a good idea from James Masters, and again, but we would ideally here and off the bench, we would love to see that as a double header. Imagine a Munster final. Kerry Cork in both games. It'd just be brilliant. They showcase for football, men's and women's football, would be brilliant. All right. Was one thing that caught my eye in the last few weeks, and I was pointing it out to Sue, who loves NFL, as any of our regular listeners will know. She's an NFL nut. The lovely Trumpster Dumpster. He has, if you don't know it, and people probably know at this stage, the whole Colin Kaepernick and the, kneeling, not listening to the anthem in American football. But the winners of the Super Bowl traditionally are always invited to the White House. It's a big deal for them to go to the White House. They usually go fairly quickly after they win it. But the Philadelphia Eagles didn't go to the White House, and now these things have changed even more so.
Yeah, now they've been told that they can't go to the White House. They didn't want to go in the first place.
Dan said, I think it was, no.
I think it was about 40 players altogether said, no, we don't want to go to this, we don't agree. And it's over the national anthem thing that's been going on for quite a while now. And I think it's amazing that they've taken this stand, because the Patriots didn't last year. They kind of half-heartedly said, we're not going to go to the White House. But the Eagles have really gone, no, do you know what, we don't agree with this.
And Trump has now turned around and said, I'm not inviting you. You're disinvited.
And he made quite the statement about it as well. He's very upset about it. And some of the names he's called some of the players over, he retweets, whenever anyone kneels during the national anthem, he retweets who it is and calls them out personally on Twitter. The American president is calling out a player for a peaceful protest.
But there's an interesting connection here, which is, this is the one that caught my eye, right? Because everyone kind of looks at Kaepernick and thinks, he was the one who started the protests against the police violence and Black Lives Matter and that kind of thing. But actually, interestingly enough, the women's National League Basketball, the WNBA in America, they actually were ahead of him, it seems, and they're doing something very interesting this season. So Sue, do you want to tell us what it is they're doing this season?
The exact title, I think, is Take a Seat, Take a Stand.
Take a Seat, Take a Stand.
It's basically whenever you pay and you can donate to a charitable cause. So, and it's ones that particularly deal. So you're not just looking after the women's game, you're looking after women in general. So it's causes that are like domestic abuse, rape, cancer, women's cervical cancer,
ovarian cancer, Glen, obviously, which is a gay rights one as well. National Mentoring Partnership, Planned Parenthood, which is an interesting one, and the United States of Women, an umbrella group encompassing human rights.
I think that's a great idea. It's just, you don't have to partake in it.
Yes.
If you want to, you can. I think it's a 5% on top of it, $5 on top of it.
And you know what part of it is as well, is if you can go in and buy a ticket and donate €5 of that ticket to one of these named charities, but it also buys a girl a ticket, and they will give a girl a ticket to go to a game, which I think is a brilliant idea. And this is a real thing that I have bugbear about, is why don't we go into schools and give girls tickets to go to games and get them to become more audience participants, if you like, if they're not playing even. So it's really interesting.
It's a brilliant camp, but the name of it as well is so clever. Take a Seat, Take a Stand. And this isn't the first time. They've come out in Black Lives Matter. They've done. I love that thing with their jerseys, where they were like, "Don't care about what fines we're going to get around jerseys. This is more important."
Well, this is really interesting, because the NFL are now threatening they're all going to be sued next year if they don't stand for the national anthem. Isn't that right? So that's the problem there. But the NBA actually, back in 2006, the Minnesota Lynx, they had T-shirts called "Change Starts With Us" in their warm-ups, and they were about the Black Lives and the police brutality. So they were the first to do it. And then the New York Liberty, which, by the way, for our listeners, Susan Moran from Tullamore, Irish WNBA player, that's who she played with when she played in the NBA, they had Black Lives Matter T-shirts as well in 2006. The WNBA fined them, and then decided no, they were going to scrap the fines. And now, 2 years later, we find the WNBA are actually taking the lead from the players and now saying, actually, yes, we will take a stand on important things, and here's our opportunity to do it and be leaders. And it's really interesting. So you have this new campaign, Change Starts With Us. And again, if you go on Facebook, we'll post it as well. You'll find they have a little video and kind of show what the campaign is about.
But I think it's really important that sports stars take stands on these things. Like, I mean, you're talking about a massive platform that you're able to get a message out to people. And, for something like a Super Bowl or something like that.
It's an interesting one too. There's an argument in my head that says, Jesus, women have enough to be doing. You're trying to build an audience, you're trying to get TV, you're trying to get sponsors. Do you need to be getting stuck into the politics of it as well? What do you think, Stephen?
Well, I suppose, because I was kind of mulling this over in my head the last couple of nights, I think because racial equality has been such a massive issue in America for hundreds of years, and still is to this day, it hasn't been sorted out. You know, they have to use every platform that they can.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I totally support any stance that the black athletes have taken over the last number of years and use the sport to do so. You know, I suppose we had our recently enough, and you know, said it's nowhere. Yeah, I wouldn't be kind of putting it beside this issue in America as well. But like, we obviously had to repeal the 8th amendment over the last the issue over the last number of months, and we saw a couple of sports stars coming out for and against. Yeah. I know some people weren't happy with sports people coming out and talking about that kind of stuff, but you know, at the end of the day, sports people are citizens of the country as well.
Of course they are. Yeah.
They're allowed to have an opinion on things. Yeah. I don't like people, you know, slapping down sports people for saying, oh, you shouldn't have an opinion on this, you shouldn't have, just stick to playing sport. They're citizens like us, so why shouldn't they, you know? But I said, especially...
And arguably, if they have sponsors and things like that, you know, personal sponsors, they're actually putting them at risk sometimes when they do this. So I think it's really powerful statement.
Yeah, it is.
I get your point. I think you're right, Sue. You know, if you have an opportunity to give leadership on any issue that's important in your community.
You're a role model. We've talked about this before, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, I get a bit antsy with the whole role model thing. You know, Charlie Barkley, the famous American basketball player, you know, used to always say, you know, why should we be a role model? Parents, you should be role models for kids. Leave me out of it, kind of. And I'm a bit on Charlie Barkley's side, but I know that you can't almost stop sports stars being role models, because children, you know, you look up to them, and adults look up to them as well. So there is that there. So isn't that interesting that the women actually took a lead on this in some ways, and now the Women's Association are actually taking a formal lead on it and making much more structured. It was the NFL, it was just down to individual players, but there are coaches and teams that have been very strong in it. Yeah. So fair dues to the WNBA, that's really interesting. And it's only 22 years old, and it is still battling its way for more TV coverage. 1.57 million attendance last year at WNBA, and it's just starting. So that's why we're talking about it now as well, because the WNBA league literally kicked off today or tomorrow. It's this weekend. So it runs all the way to September.
Yeah, I thought it was longer than that, because I even remember I played basketball myself when I was younger. Played for a club out in Kilnamanagh where I grew up in Tala, and all our coaches were my friends' mothers. There was 2 women in particular who taught us how to play basketball, and I didn't realise the WNBA had such a short history.
Yeah, no, it has a very short history. Yeah, were you were at Notre Dame? Were you out there? Were you?
We played Kilnamanagh Basketball Club. We would have played a fair few games out in the Oblats, out in Inchicore, kind of thing. Out in,
and actually, Stephen, speaking of basketball, you reminded me of it. Yeah. 2 great things. One, the Irish Basketball Association have just started up a little junior NBA thing. If people look it up, it's really interesting. So they've become enlisted in the American NBA and are going to start a little junior league with 11 to 14 year olds and boys and girls. That's a great thing about basketball. It really is equal. It's a very equal sport. And the other thing is that Ireland have the Women's European Championships for smaller nations in Cork, in the Mardyke. That is coming up in June the 26th to July 1, and we're probably going to have a few of the players in and do an off the bench podcast with them before that as well. So there's lots happening basketball wise this summer, so keep out for that as well. Okay, next one. There's a couple of things that just got on my nose, and we have little rants in here, people. That's what we do sometimes. But I thought it was really interesting. Congrats to Sunita Paspora for winning a silver. She's one of our top Irish rowers, 2-time Olympian, and she went to Belgrade last weekend and won a silver medal at, I think it was the 4th World Cup. In rowing, that's very structured. There's about 4, 5, 6 World Cup events, and they're the big ones in the year, and then you have Europeans and World Championships or whatever. She won a silver in single sculls, but I went on the RTE website. Sorry, RTE, but getting you again. But the lead on the RTE website was bronze for O'Donoghue brothers at Belgrade. Yeah. So they win bronze, and they're the lead. And then 4 paragraphs down, Sunita Paspora won silver.
You know, I'm usually ranting about these things, but the reason they did that was because the O'Donovan brothers are so popular. I don't think it's anything to do with I don't think it's fair.
Yeah.
But it's just because they're trying to get people eyeballs on the site, and people are like, oh, Donovan Brothers, they love them. They're just so popular, and I think that's what it is. I don't think it's
and it's true.
But it's unfair.
But it's how we think as journalists. We think, how can we get the most amount of people to read this and get their eyes on it, and then we'll slip in the other bit of news as well. But it's just, she won silver, they won bronze. But you're right.
Could we not separate the stories? Have two different stories?
You could put them up as two different stories. There's a possibility, exactly. And led with her, and then led with them. I don't know, but I would lead with the better medal. And I know on BBC. I mean, after the London Olympics, they brought in a female editor of women's sports, because she actually, one of her jobs, I've talked to her, one of her jobs was to go down when stuff came in and said, sorry lads, lead with the woman, look, she won a gold, not bronze, you might know who she is, but she won a gold. And to do those kind of things, because it almost becomes automatic that you do it. And okay, they're Olympic medalists and I can understand that, but when will we ever change that? If it's going to keep going like that, how do you change it?
I feel like we've at least 2 or 3 of these a month.
and actually Sunita's daughter, Daniela, won a medal for javelin in the Irish in the schools, I think in the primary schools competitions at the weekend, while her mum was away in Belgrade winning silver. I just thought that was lovely. And what a great example she is. And I was down in the Rowan Centre interviewing the O'Donovans actually by Christmas a couple of years ago, and I remember seeing her coming in from training, and her little girl was with her, and she was in all her gear and everything as well. So she really has a great role model there, let's face it.
Future Olympian.
Yeah, exactly. Just quickly go through them. The Forbes Rich List too came out this morning actually, and they've 100 richest athletes in the world. There's no woman in it.
No woman. No, and alleged domestic abuse abuser at the front of it. Well, Floyd Mayweather was number 1. Serena Williams was obviously, she took the year off last year to have a baby, and she would have been somebody that would have featured. But
there's only ever been 3 in it.
That's what I was just about to say.
All tennis players. Sharapova, Williams and Lin Na. The only 3 women have ever actually made that list. Now, it's not that long going, that list.
There is absolutely a skewed tennis.
And you know why that is? And it's a really interesting thing, because back in the 70s or the late 60s or 70s, Billie Jean King and those got together, and basically they made a players' union, and that players' union fought for equality, and they wanted equal pay, and all that battle that took place means that now there is equal pay in the Grand Slams, and that means they can earn the same amount of money. And the other interesting thing about that list is most of them, including Conor McGregor, are there because they're involved in sports that are big pay-per-view.
Yeah, MMA.
It's TV money,
boxing,
isn't it?
And MMA,
It's TV money, and even the NFL and the basketball players and all. A lot of it is TV money, and women's sport isn't on pay-per-view because the demand for it isn't there.
Well, I thought Ronda Rousey would have been in here at some point. Yeah, because I mean, she's massive
when she was. Yeah, when she was.
The thing that annoys me about this is I think it's indicative of the industry as a whole. People aren't watching women's sport.
No.
And that's exactly
and this is what we come back to all the time is, like if we want women to be able to earn money, then there has to be people who demand to see them and want to pay money to go in to see them, and this is the concept.
But it's the thing we always talk about. It's grassroots, it's support, it's training, it's funding, it's putting it on an even playing field. It's if
and
you
building an audience that appreciates it.
We're going to go to your matches and we go to your matches. It just needs to be, and then when it gets to this point, it's there's an even number across the board that you want to see. I mean, I imagine if this was 20 years ago, 30 years ago, Steffi Graf would have been on it, something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because she was a legend in tennis. Yeah. But outside of Serena, there isn't really anyone that people are going to go.
If I could say briefly, you'll hear men who don't want to go watch women's sport will always come out the same old arguments about, well, it's rubbish.
Yeah,
the
slower, they're less skillful, they're less power, less speed.
I would always make the argument that I looked at the Women's World Cup, the last edition that the Americans won, and you could see that the standard of that World Cup compared to maybe 2 or 3 World Cups before it has risen immeasurably. It's been fantastic. The sport won't get better unless more people go and watch it, so there's more money going into it and getting invested. You take men's soccer, even for instance, you watch match of the 70s.
Yeah.
Compare that football to the football that's being played now.
Yeah.
It's gotten so much better. It's because that the investment keeps going into the game, players keep getting better, facilities keep getting better, coaching keeps getting better. So women's sport isn't any different.
No, and there isn't an inbuilt bias against going to watch it, which some people seem to have about some women's sport. Yeah. And they just need to realise, stop comparing it to men's, appreciate it for what it is. It's as low. The football the women Dublin women played in the Division 1 final this year was fantastic. Go and appreciate it for what it is. Just before we wrap up, a few things. Sue, you ran the mini marathon.
Yes. I did the 10k. Well, I survived the 10k.
And at the very end of it, you got goodie bags this year, and over 30,000 women ran. What was it, VHI Women's Marathon? And what was in the goodie bags, Sue?
Well, I was fuming because I was delighted with myself after crossing the finish line, and I hadn't done that much training, and I was like, do you know what, I'm actually doing a 10k, that's brilliant. And I raised money for a charity, and it was all good. And I was handed a goodie bag, and I got my medal, I put my medal on, I was delighted with myself. Then I looked into the goodie bag, there was a dishwasher tablet and detergent, and I looked up at my husband and went, great, you ran a marathon, go home and do the dishes. Like, I was fuming because you wouldn't, if that was a men's marathon, there was no way that would be in a goodie bag. There was no reason for it. Like, you could have just put in a couple of chocolate bars and we would have been happy after crossing the finish line.
Well, there was a couple of more things in it, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was
one chocolate bar.
Rice, kind of a rice thing. There was some tea bags. But it was still very like...
Yeah. Would you get cleaning products in a men's equivalent men's race or the Dublin City Marathon? I don't think you'd get any cleaning products in it.
Now, I can understand it was probably just product placement, somebody put them in and it wasn't thought out properly. But come on, like...
Please, it's
30,000 women that ran it, you know, it's...
Male or female, you don't want to be getting cleaning products as a present anyway. I don't care what gender you are.
It doesn't matter what your
gender. 2 more chocolate bars, I would have been happy.
Okay, well look, that's the message to the Women's Mini Marathon for next year. Please, please, please do not put cleaning products in as a recognition for people who've just run 10k. That's it for this time. We forgot, we just very quickly, Hero of the Month.
Hero of the Month, I was going to mention too, quickly, Noelle Healy, who I think is... Never mind, female player, one of the best players in the country right now at the moment. She scored 1-1 in the league final, helping Dublin to their first ever title against Mayo. I sound like a real dub here now, don't I?
You are, Stephen, yeah.
But look, Michaela Walsh today had a massive win for the Irish team at the European Women's Elite Boxing Championships.
Brilliant. We've got 3 women out there at the moment at the Europeans,
And she defeated the elite world champion, Alessia Messiano of Italy today to get into the quarterfinals. That also gives her a place in the European Games next year. So, Michaela Walsh.
Michaela Walsh, and she's really one to watch this summer, I think. Sue?
Lizzie Lee.
For winning the
Women's Mini Marathon. But also, she came in here for an interview about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and she's just a ball of positivity and just the nicest, one of the nicest athletes you can encounter.
And she won it, and she tweeted and she said, my baby girl is 361 days old. That's her second child today. And this was on my big post-baby bucket list to win this. And she won it in 34 minutes. Brilliant, mine was a young athlete called Alana Neff, who in the Irish Schools 1500 metre final last weekend fell. She was leading it by about 25 metres, fell at the second last hurdle, was passed, got back up, was still chasing and beat her opposition on the line. Fantastic performance by Alana Neff. She's from Leevale, actually. She's a Cork athlete. She was running for Carrigaline. So that's it, folks. We hope to join you soon again on Off the Bench. Enjoy your sport and take care.